So X-Drake's trying to win over the favor of Luffy after they just work together to take out those numbers. And he's saying, I cannot tell you the reason why, but our goals are aligned. So he's like super tight-lipped about Sword. And it makes sense because, you know, he's like an undercover Marine dude. And this is like a super secret operation. I mean, it's so secret that we, the readers, didn't even know about it until like a couple chapters back. And granted, you know, X-Drake doesn't know Luffy the way that Kobe does, despite, you know, he knows their connection. So it's not like, oh, let me just tell you everything about this like confidential Marine program that we have going on. And Zoro, rightfully so, is very skeptical of this, and he just straight up attacks X-Drake. You know, and you know, Jinbei and Frankie are skeptical as well, as they would be. I really like this sequence. It's just so fitting to their characters, but also it's very fitting to Luffy's character for him to be like, sure, you could be on our side. But then we're coming to like page 1 and Ulti, and they're doing their stuff again. A lot of focus on these two characters, interestingly enough. So either it's because they're going to come to their big fight soon, or I don't know, Oda just likes these characters more so than the other Flying Six. I mean, obviously the other Flying Six are going to have their time as well. They wouldn't just be set up for no reason. But then again, you know, going back to Marineford, we didn't have a lot of like concrete battles, which we thought that we would have. But I'm going to stop trying to predict the matches that's going to happen here, because like I've been trying to guess what's been happening, you know, as we've been reading these chapters since like the Onigashima the big battle has started, and nothing has been sticking. It's kind of just been like little scuffles, little hurdles, skirmishes here and there, and then we'll move on, and then different things will happen. Kind of like how Marineford was. There was no like real concrete battles until like towards like the third act of the arc. So I guess until we get knee deep into it, we're just going to have like these moments of like this character is going to interact with this one, and then something's going to happen, and then everything's going to change. There's just so many characters here, and not even talking about like the ancillary like side ones, like just, you know, significant characters, powerful ones. So many like things to focus on, to cut back to. So I don't think we could really have those, at least for the most part. Like I said, we're going to have to wait till we get to like the third act of this battle, not the third act of Wano, but you guys understand what I'm talking about. Before we see anything really concrete, I suppose. But we're coming to a Pooh showing up again. And I love that Luffy remembers how his fruit works, because I honestly needed this refresher. I forgot that we found out how his fruit worked, since it was so ambiguous up until this point. It's like if you hear it, it affects you. But now Luffy, you know, he's like, Sanji, cover your ears. And then this pretty much nerfs a Pooh to some degree. I mean, he's still obviously very capable, despite if you know how his fruit works and everything. But then we have that other number showing up, who I'm assuming is 8, since he's saying Hacha. He was the first number that we saw. And I mean, he's chasing after Frankie, but an interesting thing here is that, like, Jinbei's like, hey, Frankie, run out of the dome. If the big guys fight in there, you know, it's going to crumble, and, you know, the whole Kaido infrastructure and all that stuff is going to impede the samurais. So does this mean that, I don't know, they're going to get out of the dome now, and like we're going to have this, you know, like going back to Marineford, how everyone was in the center of that place, you know, like all fighting in one area right in front of the execution platform. I mean, we eventually going to have to get to that point, I suppose, you know, to not have to cut to different locations so much as we're doing right now. So then we're coming to more conflict between Zoro and X-Drake. And I don't know, X-Drake's winning Zoro over. He's like, you know, look, if you win, it works for me too. So even if we're not on the same side, we'll just, I don't know, work together towards the same goal. And he's like, you know what? You seem honest, but you're hiding where you stand. Going back to him not revealing the whole thing about Sword, which maybe he will, maybe he won't. And then they both go after a Pooh, which is pretty cool. He's like, I don't even like this guy either. But then Queen steps in and starts firing off this crazy chain gun. And X-Drake's like, oh, you expect me to kill me with that unless these bullets are ... I mean, I think we can just assume that they're like poisoned bullets or whatever. Or they have, you know, something like that, because, you know, Queen the Plague, we found out, I think in Act 2, that was like Queen's specialty, why he's called the Plague, because he dabbles in poison and disease stuff and you know, whatever. So yeah, these bullets definitely have something to do with that. So going back to what I was saying, I don't know what the fights are going to be like, or if we should even like assume that this is going to be a concrete fight. But it looks like X-Drake and Zoro are going to take on Queen. But I'm not holding my breath. You know, for all we know, just somebody could just show up here, or Queen does something else. So, you know, who knows? So then we're going back to the top of Onigashima. We're coming back to the Kaido versus the samurais and all that stuff. And it looks like Jack has been beasted. Off panel, no less, by the Sulong forms of Nekomamushi and Arashi, which we're actually seeing for the first time here. They've just been shadowed and, you know, frayed away from at this point, but they look awesome as we expected. And yeah, they're ultra powerful. I mean, they were already pretty much Yonko commander level in their base form, so they're even stronger now. I mean, also, like, if you go back to, I think I talked about this before, when we saw Carrot use her Sulong form, or she was just talking about it in Whole Cake. She was like, yeah, Nekomamushi and Arashi can do it, and they're even stronger. They get even stronger than I do. So, yeah, they're, like, so powerful right now that they just beasted somebody like Jack in his Zoan form. Is Jack done for the rest of this arc? Probably not. I mean, like, you know, they say that Kaido's like, you have your wounds tended to. You've done enough. So maybe he'll have his wounds tended to, and that will revive him somewhat, and he'll get a second win. Again, we haven't seen his hybrid form, which is, you know, pretty much the peak of their power. So I doubt Oda would leave that off the table, you know, without us ever fully seeing it. Although, I mean, it is possible. But now we're coming to the awesome ending of this chapter. I got so excited when I saw this, and it's Kinemon cutting through Kaido's blast breath. Incredible. One of the best feats of power in the series, in my opinion. Just seeing Kinemon get his, you know, big comeuppance is awesome as well. And, of course, this was set up in Punk Hazard when we first saw that Kinemon, or just people in general, were capable of cutting flames. You know, after, like, the smiley thing blew up, Kinemon just straight up cut the explosion like it was nothing. Like, he wasn't even, like, phased by it. And he said, you know, my Firefox style allows me to cut through flames. There's no flame I can't cut. So he wasn't lying. Not a cap in sight for Kinemon. He was serious, because I guess the blast breath is, like, as strong as fire gets in this world. I mean, at least as far as we've seen. So then we see, you know, the samurai, the scabbards facing down Kaido. Does this mean that we're going to get some serious developments in this battle, or are we actually going to see it? I don't know. There's so many unknowns with this arc. But let me know what you think about this in the comments. If you like the review, guys, please give it a like. I also have a Twitch channel. Check that out. Streams are lit. And I have a Patreon as well. If you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day. I'll see you next one.